Hello and welcome. I hope you're doing well. Going on with Asem Chapter 14, 15 and 16. Just 3 chapters now because these chapters are quite long and very important. Hope you are finding this helpful. Please like this video and share it on your WhatsApp status if you don't mind, and also subscribe so you can see if there's new ones coming out. Just a note that if you would like to buy this book, these notes are part of the book, also with the poems, the IB poems, all 12 of them are in there. If you want to buy this book, there's a few ways you can go about it. Get it from CNA when CNA is open again. Get it from the ITSI website, that's the cheapest way. Or you can, if you would like to get a hard copy, just you can order 6 books from me minimum, or just get your whole class to order. That'll be the ideal thing. Also just message email admin@madesimplerange.com, WhatsApp me, or just and please share this video on your WhatsApp status. Cool, let's go on. So chapter 13 ended in quite a tense situation. The next morning, Balish finds Paul in his workshop where he's busy making those sculpting images that he likes to do. And so let's just get this going. For some reason the computer's a bit slow here. There we go. So remember, that's what Paul does. He is in essence an artist living by the beach as a bit of a sort of a drifter's existence. Okay. When Bass enters the workshop, he can smell brandy. That's what he's been drinking. He's been drinking the brandy with the poison inside. Okay, and also fertile swirl. So that's that sort of ground fertile swirl smell. I'm not sure if that represents anything in particular in the book. I suppose you can read into it a bit more. Ask your teacher about that. Just also, I'm just going to use blue here rather, so I can see what I'm doing. The bottle next to Paul, thank goodness, is only 3/4 full. Okay, and the glass is almost empty. So he's only really had a 1/4 bottle of whiskey. In my experience, that's not a terrible amount of whiskey, unless it's laced with poison. Boris does, in fact, interestingly, tries to warn him that the alcohol, the drink, is going to make him sick. But obviously Paul doesn't listen. He doesn't tell him, listen, there's rat poison in the whiskey or in the brandy that I put there. Be careful. He doesn't say that. Interestingly, now this is quite an important note, which makes this chapter quite long and important, is this, what kind of images, what kind of sculptures is Paul making? So he has these half humans. Okay, so a half human, it's not a full human, it's not a fully developed, happy human. It's a half a person. Okay, and the other half is typically either an animal or undeveloped. So it's images of half humans. He has a lion, an eagle with eggs in the nest. I think you can read quite a lot into that, and the fact that Paul sort of feels like he's not fully human. He's hurting. He still has a lot of healing and developing, and a few stages to go through. And in the same way, Barish is also like that. But the interesting one we want to focus on, I think this is where the question will definitely come from, is if there are something out. Barish stops by a faceless man. Okay, so a man without a face, without an identity, without a sense of self. The man is shirtless, and he has a faceless child on his back. So a child that has no identity, a child that perhaps has no sense of belonging. Okay, and then interestingly, the man's muscles tear open under the weight of carrying this child. So you can sort of see where the symbolism is heading. And I took a note here for you. I said dit symboliseer hoe swaar Paul dra aan sy verantwoordelikhede. It's how heavily his responsibilities are weighing upon him. And that's really meaningful towards the theme of the book. And if you've read the whole book, that'll make a whole lot of sense as all the secrets and climaxes get revealed in the book. Bryce actually goes in and he asks is he the child? Is this child representing me? Paul sort of shirks the question, dodges the question a bit. And as we've seen, typical in Bryce's mannerisms and his personality, he's quite provocative, quite aggressive with Paul. He's very direct and quite hurtful at times. He says, did you also learn how to fight in jail? Were you raped in jail? That's so inflammatory. It's so almost an offensive question. Or was he the one doing the raping? Was he... Why is my computer not responding? Was he the one doing the raping in jail? Yeah, man. Here we go. Paul vra Bryce om te trap. He just says to him, get lost, get away. I'm not interested in talking about these topics. Because Bryce really approaches it quite incorrectly. And he wonders if he must tell Paul about the rat poison. Is this time now to come clean? Sorry, my computer is playing up a bit. I just want to see if we are recording. Yes. Sorry about that. The next morning, Steph is there. He brings a fish that he shot. Remember, he does spear fishing. And Olga's with him. And as per usual, her top is quite transparent. You can see right through, which would definitely grab the attention of Bryce. Steph asks Paul where Paul is, and Bryce points to the workshop. He says he's inside the workshop. He's working on his art there. And Olga uses the opportunity. She grabs Bryce's hands and looks at him. He punched the swirl there when he got across with Paul. And he took off the skin off his knuckles on the sharp little shells and rocks and things. Bryce asks, she looks at his scars and he asks how old she is, and she says she's 23. And of course she would say something quite flirtatious. She says, you look quite a bit older than what you appear to be. And in a sense, I suppose what Bryce has been through would make him perhaps more mature than what his age would suggest. Then when Steph goes to look for Paul in the workshop, Olga asks if they can go to Bryce's room. And there she asks him, is this where you smoke your weed? And Olga tells him that she's also been mixed up with drugs and things, especially dacha and mandrakes. Bryce says he prefers ecstasy. Of course, we know that already. But she says if you run a really long high, a really long trip, then ecstasy mixed with LSD is the best. So she's quite a character, quite experienced. She asked Bryce if he could play something on his guitar. And he plays the song Smoke on the Water. Okay. And she asked him if he could sing. So there's a point here that where the reader we sort of wonder, is she just flirting with him? Or is there a deeper level to this character? Is she really seeing a depth and a level to Bryce's personality that we as a reader would have seen before? But she's not a shallow character. She becomes quite a deep, meaningful character at this point, where she really shows personal interest in Bryce. Okay. At that point, Steph calls from outside. They can hear Paul saying, that Barry's probably Barry's probably likes Paul a lot less now, and Steph says he warns Varsky that Barry's must get away. He must get away from this place. He's just causing trouble. He phones the vet again. So there's a lot of things happening in this chapter. And she says it's bad news. It's now going to cost 8,000 rand to help the dog. Boris just replies, he says, go ahead, we will bring the money tomorrow. Ons sal môre die geld bring. Daarna bel hy sy ma om te vra waarom sy nie vir hom gesê het dat sy pa in die tronk was. So he phones the vet and he phones his mom. He says, why didn't you tell? Remember, this is the information, the shocking information that he found out by his dad, that his dad killed somebody and that he ended up in jail. She says, quite a predictable response, that they just wanted to protect him. So he phones the vet, then he phones his mom, then he phones the Z. And quite predictably, she doesn't answer. Remember, we've discussed this, that there have been indications that she is moving on. Okay. Barry's vra dat hulle die volgende dag weer by die veearts kan kom. Paul sê dis reg, want hy moet self by die dokter uitkom. Okay, not the veearts. Die dokter. He must get to the doctors himself, because he's feeling sick. He's been swallowing poison. Okay? Steph and Olga slaap oor daardie aand. They sleep over and they're going to buy something. And that evening, when Barry sees Steph pulling the door shut behind them, he'd rather put the pillow over his head. He doesn't want to hear what they are doing in the room. So in town, so Barry says here he needs 8,000 rand, right? So he has only a few things left that he can sell. So what does he take this time? So this could be a question, okay? So he takes his surround sound system, DVD player, his amplifier, his PlayStation, his medals, and his cricket bat. And this Wolfie character from the second-hand shop offers him 1,800 rand. Barry says he wants 6,000 rand. And after negotiations, he gets 2,000 rand for everything. And Barry draws another 2,000 rand from the bank. So he's 4,000 rand is short, after pretty much pawning off anything that he had. Paul gaan dokter toe. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor says that, so the doctor did say to him that he had food poisoning, but I think that comes later, because he's very sick from the brandy, obviously. And the vet tells Barry's that these Labradors they are prone to hip and elbow problems. Okay? En dat die hond later in sy lewe sou ly. So this dog, even if we fix the dog now, it will probably suffer quite a bit later in life. Barry's now starts thinking about his last, most valuable possession, and that is obviously his Gibson guitar. Very important. That symbolizes the last, most valuable thing from his old life. So op pad terug sê Paul dat die dokter sê hy het voedselvergiftiging, he had food poisoning, that was the diagnosis. It was more like real poisoning, blood poisoning from the rat poison. Barry's vra weer, he asks him again, he keeps probing about this. Why did he not come back after he was in jail? So now he understands that Paul went to jail, but he did his time, but he never came back. And his guess is this, and this is important. Barry says, is it because you were shy, you were embarrassed, you was verneder? Paul said, yes, that was one of the reasons. There are other reasons. They come out later. Hulle praat oor Philly. They discuss Philly. Boris at this stage is not friends with Philly. He says he's going to hit him. He's going to knock him out when he finds him. Paul says you've got to be careful with these guys, these sort of oaks that live on the beach here. They grew up quite rough. Rondlopers het rof groot geword. They are quite rough. But he says, I also grew up rough on the wrong side of Joburg, so they better watch out. Terug by die huis gaan help Stef vir Paul met die lister, that engine, that diesel generator that just doesn't want to work properly. Okay, also a symbol of their struggling relationship. Olga asks that the two of them go walking on the beach. She this is an interesting scene. Perhaps didn't do it justice here in the summary, but she shows him she basically gives him like a little beach education on all the little things that you can see in the pools and on the rocks. She shows him the difference between red bait and haai drolle and sea sterre, sea stars, and so on. She puts her very powerful scene. She puts her red toenails in a pool, and she shows Boris how how a little octopus or how they like the red toenails, and they see the red and they come on and they suck onto the red. And there they make sort of a connection, the two of them, while they are alone on the beach there. And he asks Olga, did you know that that Paul was in jail? So she said yes. She said yes, I knew, and he is strong like Samson, the Bible character. En Boris vra of sy Delilah is, are you the Delilah? Are you the one that weakens? Because at this stage he's still not sure. I mean, Boris is quite a suspicious character, so in his mind he's probably thinking if Paul has some sort of crush or some sort of desire or feelings towards Olga. That's what makes her such a fascinating character in the book. She can never quite read what she's thinking or feeling. She kisses him on the forehead, and then she screams. She gives a yell of pleasure as the octopus sucks onto her calf. Okay. Who's watching all of this? Philly Boyson. He's a weird character. He's on the rocks there. He sees them and he dives behind the rocks as they notice he's there. Then Olga pulls off quite an erotic scene here. She pulls her shirt off. She puts her palm on his chest and she tells him, your bruises are getting lighter and lighter. She sticks her fingers in between her hair, or Boris makes sort of a move there, and he puts his fingers through her hair, and she says no, it's time that they go home. That evening, toe sy kamer toe gaan met Stef, kyk sy oor haar skouer om en Boris dink om haar skouer vir Boris. Sorry, let me just fix that. She looks at Boris. So when she goes to her room with Steph, she looks around her shoulder and eyes out Boris. And Boris obviously feels that he wants to kick Steph's nose off from that. Die veearts laat weet, so the vet gives the news that the operation went quite well, but that the dog almost bled to death. He probably has this sickness. This becomes quite symbolic as well. So just take note of this disease. You need to know this. Von Willebrand's ziekte. So the blood doesn't clot. So in humans it's the hemophilia. Okay? So where your blood doesn't clot, you just bleed out when you get a cut or something. Very dangerous. The royalty in the past used to carry that genetic marker, especially in Europe. His mom lets him know that it's not going well with the traffic cop. And quite interestingly, Paul and Steph, they struggle for 2 days. They struggle to fix this engine. So it just emphasizes the difficulty that all the characters here, especially Boris, obviously is going through. The fight that he's going through, the turmoil that Paul's going through in his mind, what his mom's going through, what this police officer, his physical struggle for life. So all of that is symbolized by this diesel generator that just does not want to work properly. Boris, I like this, quite like this. He likes to go into the bathroom when Olga's done with her bath and the steam is still in the bathroom. He sits with her when she's making food, and he tries to teach her to play chess. Obviously, she's not the character to be into chess and so on. He often phones the doctor, the vet, and he goes up to the hill to watch over Steph and Olga's house. But interestingly, he says he sometimes talks to Lizette on the phone. So that relationship keeps going. There's a slight improvement in Jonah, the dog. And one afternoon, Paul comes home with Jonah. The vet phoned while he was in town already, and he was busy picking up his parts, building a new toilet with a French drain. Symbolically there to flush all the problems away that they have, all the challenges and frustrations and stress that they have in their relationship with the different people. And he said, now this is quite interesting, he's taken note of this, that Paul, when he comes back with the dog, he says, by the way, the vet gave the last 2,000 Rand as a discount. Okay, not quite the truth, as we'll see later. So Paul vertelt dat hy Olga and Steph and Olga, this is very important, okay? He bumped into Steph and Olga in the town. She has been beaten up. She has a bruised eye and a broken lip. Steph, he hit her, okay? He beat her. Steph het haar geslaan, omdat hy nie gelukkig is. Why? Why did he hit her? He's not happy with how friendly Boris and Olga are with each other. Okay, so this puts a new dimension to things. It ups the tension. It ups the stakes, yeah. So Boris beskuldig Paul dat hy eintlik verlief op Olga is. He shoots his mouth there. He shoots from the hip. This guy, Boris, he says he's actually the one that's in love with Olga. I think this proves not really to be true, okay? I think he can recognize that she is young and attractive. However, he does not have any romantic feelings for her. He asks if Steph, are we going to allow, and this was a good question, I like this part, okay, are we going to allow that Steph hits her? Or is this just part of how you grew up? Okay, very interesting question. Hy tart hom, he mocks him and asks if his parole is over and whether he's scared of Steph. So it was probably unnecessary for him to obviously add to mock him after that. Oh, is your parole over? Are you scared of Steph? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? That was unnecessary. The really good question was, listen, I know Steph is your brother / friend, but are you going to allow him to physically abuse Olga? And then the chapter ends in a hectic way. The beach buggy stops next to the house, and the only person in the car is Olga. She's driving. There's no sign of Steph. Yeah, so that was chapter 14, quite a hectic one. Chapter 15 was a bit shorter. Okay. why is she there? Okay, she arrived there. Olga says Steph locked himself up. This guy's gone all mental, all depressed. Why? Because he's feeling guilty because he abused Olga, he hit her. Now it's like a typical cycle, I think. Aggression and then guilt and then remorse and so on, and then depression. So Paul, he takes his Isuzu and he drives to the house. Olga stays behind with Boris. And wherever these two are alone, things seem to happen. For the first time, she meets Jonah. Okay, so that could be a question. Where was the first time she met Jonah? It was when Paul drove up to Steph to help him, where he locked himself in the house. You need to be literally know the book that well. Boris bied koffie aan, maar sy vra of sy eerder in sy arms kan lê. He offers, oh, would you like some coffee? She says, no, I'd rather lie in your arms. Typical response that we would expect from Olga. Boris vra of Steph haar gereeld slaan. Does he hit you often? She doesn't really answer the question, which to me means a yes. She says he's very regretful, and that makes him depressed, and then he locks himself in the room, and who knows what he does in the room. Boris probes her, but he says, what are you doing with such an old man? She said they met each other by Donkin. That's the hospital for mental illnesses for people with depression and schizophrenia and bipolar and that sort of thing. All kinds of things there, mainly depression, I think. And she says that hulle was toevallig daar. They were there, coincidentally, they were there together, and they became dependent. That's how she describes it. Very interesting description. Hulle het afhanklik van mekaar geraak. They became dependent on each other. That's how they did. That's how the wording that she used. Not like she didn't say, oh, and we fell in love there or something. Okay. She presses her body against his. She asks if he has a girlfriend. But he said that die afstand nie lekker werk. And he says, yes, but the distance doesn't work really. And he lies about them sleeping together. He says, yeah, we sleep together. Obviously we do. But they don't. She comes up with an interesting confession. She says she admits that one of the reasons she was in by Donkin is because she's a sex addict, okay? And she is telling him this while she's like playing with his belt. So obviously that makes Boris really like turned on and excited. Like for his young, 16, 17 years old, 23-year-old attractive sex addict playing with your belt, that is gonna wake up something. Sy vertel ook dat sy in Johannesburg gebly het. That's where she started using hard drugs. She wants to sleep on Boris's lap. All she wants to do, seems to do, is just have peace and sleep, which also says a lot about her state of mind. But then they hear the Isuzu outside. She hears the Isuzu in the buggy. She jogs out, jumps in the buggy like nothing ever happened. Paul immediately, so this was the reason that Steph was so upset. He found out that Olga was naked when Boris saw her the first time. So Paul asks him immediately, why? Hoekom het Boris nie gesê dat Olga kaal, naked op die strand gesien het nie? Boris sê dit was 'n ongeluk, maar dit stem nie ooreen met story on Stephanie. So he says, no, it was just a mistake, but Olga seemed to have told her a different version to Steph, which obviously made him very angry, and then he hit her, and then the whole depression set in. Boris gaan stap met die hond en vertel hom hoe swaar hy kry sonder sy dagga and ecstasy. He goes for a walk. Tells him how he's suffering without his drugs. It's a windstill aand. It's a windstill evening that evening, which is interesting. Jonah wakes him up, and there's like vomit dripping out his mouth, but it's more blood than vomit, and this is quite a crisis. And this is critical. He runs to get Paul to help. But Paul has been drinking. Hy het gedrink en lê vas aan die slaap nadat hy 'n half-jack brandewyn gedrink het. Paul is nie beskikbaar nie, net soos toe Barry se kind was. Paul is not available, he's not accessible, he's not available for help, just like when Barry was a child. Jonah is still lying on the floor. And this is a very meaningful moment. He picks up, out of frustration and anger because Paul is not available, he picks up his Gibson guitar and breaks it against the wall. Hy hou aan roep en slaan. He calls Paul, he calls him over and over again, but he keeps smashing his prized possession against the wall. So what does this symbolize? It symbolizes the climax of all the crises in Barry's life. Okay, but there are more crises to come. Okay, but it symbolizes everything that has gone wrong. Last chapter. Let's see where we are. Wow, it's taking long. Okay, chapter 16. So what Barnes does is he picks up Jonah and he takes him to the vet by himself in the Isuzu in the middle of the night. He drives up that difficult dirt road and reaches the ground road an hour later. He gets to the vet. She says that the dog is okay. He just did too much exercise. Te veel oefening. She's still waiting to hear if he has von Willebrand's siekte, that the bleeding sickness, okay, where the blood doesn't clot. There's no cure for it, and sadly, and the dog would need blood transfusions, bloedoortappings on a regular basis. Now you can imagine how expensive a blood transfusion for a dog would have to be. Boris makes an interesting statement. He says that he would sell his farm. Okay, talking about what he would inherit. He would sell his farm if he had to for the dog. The doctor asked him where Paul was, and he just said, no, he's in another world. He's drunk. Okay, he's passed out, but he didn't say that. He just said, no, he's in another world. Note here, he thanks the doctor for the 2,000 Rand discount. And she was like, no, I didn't give you a discount. Paul actually paid the outstanding money. Okay, which was a gesture of love. We can interpret it like that he really cares. Op pad terug. Now, we thought that breaking the guitar was the climax, or was hitting rock bottom. Remember we said that rock bottom has a basement. This is really the case. He knocks the bakkie on Harnold Draai. That's like a really sharp turn. Okay, that's what they call the turn down towards the house. And it causes him to relive the accident, the ongeluk with Theo. It comes up and in his memory. And straight after that, like a rock bottom hits rock bottom, hits rock bottom, another level. The Sergeant Schroeder, Niku, she phones and she tells him that the traffic officer died. Boris, for the first time, feels like he's close to crying and that everything was his fault. What does this mean practically? Well, it means that Theo's complaint, his charge, changes to reckless driving and manslaughter. Manslag, roekelose bestuur en manslag. And a strong realization sinks down on Boris that this was really his fault. It was regtig sy skuld. The other people wanted to go home. He wanted more drugs. When he gets home, Paul is waiting for him. It's like, obviously, his son is gone, his vehicle is gone, his dog is gone, he's wondering what's going on. He sees the bakkie has been bumped, has been knocked. Barry's antwoord dat hy hom nie geroep het nie, net soos hy 'n kind was en hom nie geroep het nie. I called for help, and just like when I was a child, you weren't there. Barry het destyds vir sy maats vertel dat sy pa vir hom 'n hond gaan koop het in 'n dorp wat ver weg is. He told his friends back then, my dad just left because he went to buy me a dog in another town. Hy vertel ook vir Paul hoe hy Paul en Vera hoor beklei. He heard them fighting and he asked, do you still want to be with Vera? Do you still want her? Paul is nie kwaad oor die bakkie nie. Interesting, he's not cross about the bakkie. He said that can be fixed. But he asks him about the guitar. So why would you smash your guitar? Bryce tells him that the traffic officer died and that he will pay back the 2,000 rand. He phones his mom. She says that the traffic officer's wife doesn't harbor any resentment about the accident, which is quite a deep lesson that Bryce will still sink in for him later in the book. Sy vertel dat iemand hom by die huis kom soek het en dat Butcher hom gestuur het. This is quite frightening. Okay, she said someone came to my house and looking for you, and that Butcher sent him. That's quite scary. Okay. Barry stel dadelik vir Nico. He gets on it immediately. He phones Nico and let her know that, informed her that Butcher is threatening his mom. Nico, she already knew, interestingly, that he didn't point out the real Butcher. In the workshop, Barry's is working on his own image in the workroom there. It's an image of, surprise, surprise, Olga, not Lizette. Okay. He tells Paul that the traffic officer's wife is expecting her second child. He begs him for something to just smoke and feel better. The emotions are going to make him hysterical, you can only imagine. Paul just said, no, I can't, because the local detective branch is looking out for you buying anything. So you just can't take that risk. That Mfeka made sure of that. He lets Paul lets Barish know that it's been 20 days since he smoked, and Paul said it's 0 days since I last had brandy, because the night before he obviously got smashed and passed out and he didn't hear Barish calling. Interesting event here. Outside, Philly is waiting by the chopping block. He said that his dad sent him to bring the clothes back, and then he disappeared. Another important event, geez, it's so many things in these 3 chapters. Paul sitting outside with his pistol, his gun. He said someone stole his wallet. Now, obviously, they would suspect Philly and the people living on his land. They wouldn't expect anyone close to them to steal it. Then Barish asked Paul what his tattoos mean, and you need to learn this, please. They can ask this. The dragon means that he'll protect anyone that looks for protection. The sword means that he was the Eastern Cape's heavyweight boxing champion. Okay, and the rubane, what's a rubane in English now? Is it's that red stone. In the sword, that stone in the sword means that he is unbeaten for 21 fights. Paul shows Barish how the pistol works. Barish vra hoekom Paul werklik wou hê dat hy moet kom. Why did you really want me to come all the way down here to live with you? Paul said he gives a predictable answer. He says, it's because I want to fix things that are broken between us. Okay. Barish sê hy het gekom om Paul te laat betaal. He says, I came for a different reason. I came to make you pay. to hurt you and to step on you, to trample on you. Aggressive, eh? So please learn that as well. Why did Paul want him to come, and why did Boris? How did their intentions differ? Paul sê hy slaag baie goed in sy doel. He's achieving his goal of hurting him and trampling on him very well. That there. Boris vra vir die volle waarheid. He says, just tell me. You can obviously sense that the full truth is not being told here. He says, just tell me the full truth, and then I'll go. Paul says, you're not allowed to go. The traffic officer died. You can't go back. Things have changed. Then when Boris unpacks his clothes that Philly brought back for him, he recognizes a smell from his past. The sweet smell of dacha. That smell he can detect on his clothes, and it obviously gets him thinking. Wow, okay, so 3 chapters took quite long. Please, if you want the notes, please get it in the book, and we'll stop it there, and we'll go on as soon as we can. Bye bye.